Welcome everybody once again to Mexico News Network's The Travel Insider. My name is Sofia Rattinger and joining me is financial analyst Mr. Elliot Bullman. Elliot, how are you?
Good morning, Sofia. I'm well, and you?
Well, thank you.
Great, and hello everybody. Welcome to another show. We've got great news coming up for you this morning, but before we start, remember to check out all our social networks. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And you can catch us every day on MexicoNewsNetwork.com for relevant stories and news. Let's start with today's show.
The period from June 2016 to May 2017 was declared the dual year between Mexico and Germany. The purpose of this was to promote a better understanding between both countries through different plans of cooperation, exchange, promotion, and political dialogue that allowed the deepening of the strategical association of both countries. This cooperation program has extended to different subjects, one of them being tourism. In this sector, the intention is to attract a greater number of German travelers, considering that as of now, Germany is one of the biggest issuers of travelers to Mexico.
And it's a two-way street. As a part of dual years policies, plans are being made to increase the number of flights to Germany. Contrary to what many believe, Spain is not the European country with more connectivity with Mexico. Germany has the highest number of weekly frequencies. It's intended to include direct flights like the one recently opened from Cologne-Bonn to Cancun with German wings, which is priced at around €249.
There's a particular interest in Mexico for the German culture, especially regarding education. Each year, hundreds of youngsters apply for students' visas at the German embassy so they can carry on with their high-level education at European colleges and graduate schools. This international student community is very important to Germany. Nowadays, there are lots of companies from different trades that get involved in the whole process of these cultural and educational exchanges, not least of them the travel industry.
That's right, the interest is mutual. In 2015, the Mexican destinations received more than 197,000 German residents, positioning it as the 8th most important market for Mexico in terms of the arrival of tourists by air and the 3rd most important in Europe. In this sense, the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Promotion Council are implementing a plan that is based on the Erleben concept, which seeks to give the German consumer the possibility to live, discover and experience Mexico in all areas.
Another very interesting promotion project is the publicity caravan that set out of Berlin to different cities of the German and Austrian market, like Frankfurt, Bremen and Vienna, presenting the touristic offer of Latin America, including a distinctive presentation of Mexico and a vast promotion of the different travel destinations of the country.
Yeah, and you do notice a lot more international residents, especially. I mean, a lot of German families now in Playa del Carmen, and students coming over to our top universities.
Also.
Absolutely, yes. And it's good news. I mean, there's lots of German manufacturing right now in Mexico, and BMW, I think, have just announced a new plant in San Luis Potosí, $1 billion investment there. So you can see the trend, right? People wanting to move, and what a lifestyle to come to live in Mexico for them, right?
Yes, and a lot of trust they are putting in Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely, economic, but also culturally. I mean, what a fascinating culture we have here in Mexico from their perspective. And I know a lot of German people who live here, they remark on how well-mannered and how receiving we are here as Mexican people. Great hosts, you know,
yes,
for
we are.
International tourists. So.
Speaking of international cooperation, the Secretary of Tourism, Enrique de la Madrid Cordero, participated in the 13th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, known as COP13, an international forum in which Mexico endorsed its commitment and leadership in the conservation of its natural resources.
During COP13, the country promoted actions to support the Strategic Plan 2011-2020 and its Aichi targets. Therefore, the central theme was the integration of the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity in plans, programs, and sectoral and cross-sectoral policies in the agricultural, forestry, fisheries, and tourism sectors.
In a statement, the federal agency commented that Mexico assumes that tourism is an ally and an example for the preservation of biodiversity in destinations through their experiences, models, and innovations. So the Secretary of Tourism already works on a sustainable tourism model.
The secretary even commented that the tourism sector in Mexico has made significant progress in the integration of biodiversity in its products and services through various sectoral instruments, among which are the development of studies, guides and guidelines such as the Guidelines for the Disputation of Sustainable Tourism Development Zones.
During the COP13, which began on the 4th of December and ends on December 17 in Cancun, Quintana Roo, the member nations of the body addressed the relevance of public policies for sustainable development linked to 4 major areas: tourism, forestry, agriculture, and fisheries.
The forum also brings together countries adhering to the Convention on Biological Diversity, a global multilateral agreement that establishes the conservation of biodiversity of interest to humanity and a fundamental part of the development process of nations.
And you know, this is a huge event to have the COP13 here in this city. Huge event.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've had some big global events in Cancun over the years, but I think this one really puts us on the map.
Oh, yeah. A lot of countries here. We have here.
Yeah, major ambassadors, major world leaders will be coming here and be seeing major progress in infrastructure, and what an amazing place it is here, not just to live, but to set up business.
Yeah,
and obviously how sustainable it is here for countries now that are pledging beyond 2020 their economic investment into Mexico.
I'm talking about the trust. They keep trusting in us. I mean, in this city, in this country, and that's great news.
Yeah, rightly so. You know, we do obviously have the perfect infrastructure in order to create long-term arrangements and relationships. So, yeah, that should continue for the long term.
Along with the anthropologist Fernando Nava, the specialist of the Institute of Social Research of the UNAM, Georgina Flores Mercado coordinates the book Identidades en Venta, Músicas Tradicionales y Turismo en México, where they gather 10 studies that for the first time in Mexico reflect on the influence that so-called cultural tourism has on concrete manifestations of traditional Mexican music and dance.
What they're proposing with this study is very interesting. They're asking the question, what happens to the cultural and traditional origins when this music and dance are executed in touristic scenarios? This subject may not be new, but it has certainly been left aside for a while now. She explains that in Mexico, the link between tourism and traditional manifestations began in the 60s and the 70s of the 20th century. The exploitation of this idea, however, increased in the presidency of Vicente Fox, when the Pueblos Mágicos program was created to compete with the sun and beach destinations from Mexico that have always been attractive in an attempt to bring some of the economic prosperity of tourism to other towns.
UNESCO also contributed to the discussion in the 1980s when it spoke of cultural development and that there can be no development without culture, and culture enters as part of that link of economic development at the global level. And if there was already the exploitation of material cultural assets such as archaeological sites or historic buildings, its Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2003 revolutionized the way of conceiving music, food, traditional medicine, rituals, and handcrafts as part of the tourist offer of the countries.
However, the problem is that there hasn't been a deep discussion of the implications that tourism has on these practices, and there are no mechanisms to defend these manifestations as public policy. Behind all these processes are the big markets. Let's think about Cumbre Tajín of Xcaret in Cancun, which is a factory of dances and musical traditions that are extremely spectacular and taken from their contexts that have nothing to do with what happens in the reality of local populations, but that generates a lot of income.
The researchers warn of several risks that go beyond the falsification of traditions. It is complex to say that there is deception, but there is a whole reinvention of those traditions. In the case of music, certain groups or performers are chosen to substitute the creators, composers, and community musicians, appealing to subjects who have indeed been nourished by these musical traditions, but who are not in fact part of these traditions. We can have Lila Downs singing traditional music, and she's better because she has an image she can talk to the public with middle and upper classes.
One of the specialists calls this process whitening music, but other phenomena such as the one called fossilization occur, which ends up reducing cultural manifestations. It reduces a whole musical tradition to 3 songs, 3 dances. If they want jarocho, it is reduced to la bamba. And if they want what is the son huasteco, the touristic entertainment leaves it at the popular el querreque. A very interesting question indeed. The book was presented on December the 2nd at the Museo Nacional de Culturas Populares in Mexico City.
And I think that this book, I mean, they explain all the importance of the region, of the culture in Mexico, but I think it's great to have places like Cumbre Tajín, like Xcaret, like Pueblos Mágicos, where people from other countries, they can learn and they can witness how we dance, how the music is performed, and well, I'm pro those things, you know?
Well, absolutely. I mean, from a touristic perspective, it's a good introduction, right?
Yes.
So even if it's a little bit diluted, it gives you the introduction.
I'm sorry, and if you are a little bit interested in some subjects, you can investigate.
Absolutely.
You can search something.
Maybe you stay a bit longer. That's what happens. People stay longer in Mexico. They do more research, and they do get more into the art scene. I noticed here, right? So.
And the book is a great idea, but I think there's also a great idea to have places. I mean, I'm repeating what I said, like Pueblos Mágicos, and this is a great place that we have here in Quintana Roo, Xcaret.
Yeah.
And the show is amazing. México Espectacular is amazing, and you can learn about the pre-Hispanic dances and all the pre-Hispanic culture and all the folkloric and all the folklore in Mexico.
Absolutely. Totally worth going along to see that. I agree.
Okay, yes. Well, this was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Sofia Rattinger.
And I'm Elliot Bullman. Thank you for joining us. And before we go, remember to check out all our social networks, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and follow us daily on MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more news about Mexico and the world. Until next time,